They didn't say it out loud, but everyone in the war room knew what had just happened. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré arrived at headquarters that morning, he found the heavy doors closed. Guards at the entrance exchanged glances, avoiding his eyes. One finally muttered, "Meeting's full, sir." Higher-ups only. He wasn't on the list. The biggest strategic meeting in weeks, and the man who commanded the most loyal battalion in the East? Not even invited. Inside, voices echoed off polished walls, maps, satellite images, laser pointers, but not one chair reserved for him. From behind the glass, he could hear laughter. One voice, cold and smug, rose above the others. "Captain Traoré? Let him play war in the dirt. This is real planning." More chuckles followed. Then, "He's a foot soldier with ambition. That's always dangerous." And just like that, the door shut. Again. He stood there a moment silent, then turned around and walked out. Not toward the mess hall, not to file a complaint, not to sulk. Back to the front. Back to where real strategy meant life or death. Because while they debated over projection screens and coffee, Traoré's boots were on soil soaked with blood and dust, and he had no time for petty politics. That night, in a broken schoolhouse near the border, Traoré spread out his own map. No computers, no briefings, just notes, names, patterns. Around him sat the soldiers no one else paid attention to. Recruits too poor, too rural, too ignored. But to him, they were everything. He didn't give orders. He asked questions. What did you see last week? Where were they headed? Who's missing from the village today? They didn't have ranks, but they had eyes, ears, memories. And with that, he began building what no one else could see. A new map. A real one. One that didn't need clearance or permission. One that would change the course of a war and the shape of a nation. The generals had their charts. Traoré had footprints. While they stayed in the capital, surrounded by polished boots and political favors, he walked village to village. No motorcade, no escort, just a rifle and the same dusty uniform they'd once mocked. And the people began to notice. He didn't lecture. He listened. At the edge of a mango grove, he sat with a grandmother who'd lost 3 sons to the conflict. In a burned-out market, he crouched beside a boy who sketched enemy routes in the dirt using his finger. Traoré didn't ask for loyalty. He earned it. Soon, whispers started. They weren't rumors. They were updates. Precise. Timed. Coordinated. A convoy spotted 2 days before it reached the capital. A hidden weapons drop intercepted behind enemy lines. A group of mercenaries surrounded, without a single bullet fired. No one knew how it was happening, but Traoré did. He had built something the war room couldn't comprehend. An invisible network of farmers, teachers, shepherds, retired scouts, each one tied not by order, but by trust. No hierarchy, no medals, just shared purpose. Back at HQ, this success stirred discomfort. "How is he getting this intel?" one colonel asked. "He's operating off protocol," another warned. One even scoffed. "If he's not reporting to us, who is he really working for?" But the results spoke louder than the suspicion. For the first time in months, attacks were down. Morale was up. Civilians weren't fleeing. They were standing their ground. And everywhere his unit passed, the message spread like wind through dry grass. He didn't leave us behind. But Traoré wasn't celebrating. He knew something the generals didn't. This wasn't a series of victories. It was the beginning of something larger. And the men who locked him out of that war room, they were still making decisions. Still dragging the country toward ruin. Still blind to what was coming. But not for long. They tried to warn him, quietly, behind closed doors. "You're stepping on toes, Captain," one old mentor said. "Not everyone likes how fast you're moving," another whispered. But Traoré didn't slow down. He couldn't. Not when every village he passed told him the same thing. "We've never seen an officer come back. You're the only one who stayed. You remembered us." He'd seen too much to unsee it. Too many kids playing next to craters. Too many elders burying sons. Too many maps that erased entire regions as if they didn't matter. So when a highly decorated general sent him a direct order, abrupt, cold, to return to headquarters immediately for reassignment, Traoré didn't flinch. He read between the lines. He was getting too visible, too popular, too effective, and that scared them. They didn't want a hero. They wanted a scapegoat. He arrived at HQ without fanfare, no escort, no weapon, just documents in hand. Inside the conference room, the air was icy. They didn't offer him a seat. One officer sneered, "You've made quite the name for yourself." Another followed, "This isn't a solo campaign, Captain. You answer to command." He placed the documents on the table without a word. Detailed reports, hand-verified intel, proof of operations that had saved thousands of lives, all accomplished without a cent of extra funding. There was silence. Then one general muttered, almost annoyed, "Why do you care so much about these villagers?" Traoré looked up. "Because they're the ones dying," he said, calm but firm. "They're the ones you left behind." That night, he wasn't given a room in the officers' quarters. He slept in the barracks, on a spare cot, between two new recruits who joined because they'd heard stories about a captain who didn't just talk, he acted. And as he lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, Traoré understood one thing clearly. The divide wasn't just between officers and soldiers. It was between those who served people and those who served themselves. One side had maps and medals, the other had truth. And soon, the whole country would be forced to choose. It didn't happen with a speech. It happened with a shift. Quiet at first, then unstoppable. One by one, units began rerouting reports directly to Captain Traoré. Then came the supply lines, then the communications officers, then entire divisions. It wasn't a rebellion. It was a correction. When the capital descended into confusion after a failed intelligence op, blamed, as always, on field errors, Traoré stepped forward. He didn't shout. He didn't posture. He simply walked into the National Broadcast Center and asked one question. "Are you ready to hear the truth?" And the nation listened. In a live address, wearing the same old uniform they once mocked, Traoré laid everything bare. He revealed the reports he had submitted and how they were buried. He showed the villages saved and the orders that tried to stop him. He named the generals who'd rerouted aid, misallocated weapons, and sent men to die for territory they had no plan to hold. He didn't call for vengeance. He called for accountability. The reaction was immediate. Troops in the north declared loyalty to Traoré. Then came the Western battalions, then the civil defense units, then the people, hundreds of thousands in the streets, holding signs not of protest, but of faith. They chanted one word: justice. Under mounting pressure, the interim council resigned within 48 hours. The very generals who once laughed at Traoré were stripped of their ranks, escorted out under military guard, and banned for life from holding public or defense positions. Some tried to plead, some tried to deny. One, the same man who once told him, "You're just boots on the ground," was photographed being driven away in a plain truck. No medals, no escort, no applause. On his first day as head of the new national command, Traoré said just one sentence: "I'm not here to rule, I'm here to restore." And the room, packed with soldiers, survivors, farmers, teachers rose to their feet. Not in celebration, in recognition, because the man they had once ignored was now the reason they had a future